You have 4 seconds to establish 3 crucial things. Number 1, you must be perceived as being sharp as a tack. Number 2, enthusiastic as hell. And number 3, most important of all, an expert in your field. People judge books by their covers. We make a snap judgment. What do you do in the presence of an expert? You defer. You let the expert control the conversation. We've been conditioned since we're yay big. When we were kids, you're sick, parents take you to the doctor. Even your own parents defer to the doctor. You answer their questions honestly. You need advice on taxes, you hire an accountant. You want in trouble, you hire a lawyer. And when we're in the presence of an expert, what do? We defer. We let them control the flow of the encounter. You do it through unconscious communication. Tonality, body language. You hit this box in their mind, their unconscious, that this is an expert. In that moment, it opens up the possibility to make every sale the same.
I'm just gonna go right into it. I don't have to do a whole, I'll put your name up, they're gonna see who you are. I don't have to do a whole I have the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, Google him. By the way, I am this is one of the podcasts I've been very excited for. And I said it off the camera. No, you didn't even know who I was. You probably didn't care.
You're an amazing podcast. I'm excited.
Well, I'm just saying that you're so fascinating to me. I swear, everything about you. You also look, you guys, the guy looks like he's Benjamin Button. He's aging backwards. How old are you?
61.
Okay. And no surgery, no plastic surgery, no nothing.
No hair dye. I have a few gray hairs here and there, but I've had them, for a few years. It doesn't really get worse, Well, that's not even bad for have gray hair, but I don't have really gray hair. And I'm just, listen, my issues are more inside. I look at it on the outside, I'm rotting away on the inside.
Yeah.
I got muscle play, played a lot of sports, tennis, golf. I wrestled when I was in college, and I did a lot of weightlifting. So I have my shoulder. I have a artificial replacement here. Then I tore my cuff recently, so I have to get more surgery. And then this has got arthritis. I got problems with my hands from golf and tennis. But listen,
that's more wear and tear.
That's wear and tear. Yeah. I've done some I overdid it, especially in my 50s. I was playing tennis for 2 hours a day with one of the top players in the world, and I just destroyed my shoulders. So, but it was worth it. I think in the end, I had so much fun and kept me fit, and but listen, you look amazing too, and
about 60 though.
I'm just looking for the fountain of middle age at this point.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's beyond with you. Whatever you're doing, I want to actually start doing.
I've done stem cells. That's the only thing I've done.
But stem cells, but that's more for an injury.
No, I've done my face too.
Oh, you've done it for your face.
Yeah.
What did it do? I've never.
It's subtle. It's not like plastic. It's very different than plastic.
Tell me what
they they do this micro needling, and they put the stem cells in. It's supposed to enrich the collagen, but I think it works. I don't know. It's not where you're like, oh my God, the next doesn't work. Maybe in 6 months it's subtle, but I think it's refreshing, and I do anything I can with my own blood. I love that, using my own.
Oh, you mean PRP you did?
No, stem cells. I go to Costa Rica. I don't do it here. I go to Costa Rica to do it. So
really?
Yeah, and I had stem cells in my neck and my hands, and I do stem cells. That's great, stem cells.
So did it hurt to get in your face? Was it just little needles?
I was asleep. Yeah, and they gave me, and that's, listen, I was a drug addict.
Yeah, I know.
So I got sober in 97, but that's a long time ago. And I was really, before that, I was just unbelievably and I never met a drug I didn't like, basically, right? But, so now my only high is I get to go to the doctor if I have to get surgery. Give me the anesthesia really slow. I want that Valium in the arm.
Wow.
Give it to me a little, I want to remember. I don't want to forget, so I got anesthesia, so it didn't hurt at all. But yeah, you get a couple, little bumps for a day, and then it goes away. And then you don't see results right away, but then over 3 to 6 months, it builds more collagen, and yeah.
It works.
I
want to see a before and after, just to see if there's any, it's probably so, like you said, subtle.
It's subtle.
Yeah, it's not like.
It's not like going to a surgeon, they pull
your face up.
Yeah.
By the way, you just said something that's so crazy, because you've been, that movie, even though it came out in 2013, first of all, a cult favorite, my favorite movie of seriously all time, The Wolf of Wall Street. I am obsessed with it. I think I've seen it 25 times. Yeah. I'm not joking.
A lot of people love the movie. I love it. And I love the first half a lot better than I love everything up to the end.
I was going to say until the end, right?
But but it ends on an up note, which is really interesting, because when they first were going to do the movie, it was 2007, and it ended with me going to jail. Because that was my life, and then it got delayed because of the writer's strike, and over that 6-year period, I rebuilt my life. I had a comeback story. So Marty and Leah, like, we got to change the movie. They made it a comeback story to reflect my new life, which was going around the world teaching people about entrepreneurship and sales.
Right,
so
right.
I think it made it a much better movie because suddenly it's like, oh my God, the guy came back from the whole
came
thing.
back, basically,
versus
yeah.
being like a downer. It was like, oh my God, and he came back from it. So yeah.
Well, what was interesting though, because it came out, what you said, 2000, I thought 2013 it came out.
December, Christmas 2013.
2013. But that movie, like that was your life so many years before, like
People think it
30
happened
years ago.
I was just telling this to someone. So people like will say, wow, you like just at Stratton like, 10 years ago? No, it was like literally 30 something years ago.
That is what's so crazy. Because if you're like, okay, so you're
It was 35 years ago.
right. So that's like, you were like, you're a whole different person.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like
right?
you've had like probably 5 different lives since then.
I have, for sure. I've definitely had at least 3 lives, you know?
Oh, it's,
Because there was a life up to Stratton. Then Stratton started, and my life was literally insane, balls to walls for 10 years. Then I had this 5-year period where I was, indicted, waiting to go to jail. Worst 5 years of my, like you're dying in slow motion. Literally, jail wasn't even the bad part, by the way, but it's when you're waiting to go to jail and your life is slowly, it's like the Roman Empire is falling and burning, and you're like sitting there watching yourself die in slow motion.
Yeah.
And I still was living in a giant house. It's like your possessions being stripped away one by, it's a fucking worst, right? When I finally went to jail and I lost everything, it was liberating because I hit bottom. I mean, bottom, no more money left, right? Separated from everything. Even my kids was the saddest part of all, right? They were 9 and 11 at the time, right? But once I got to jail, so who's my bunkmate? Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong. We're sharing a cell together. They put us in the same cell.
Are you serious?
And that's how I began writing. So he was my cellmate, and we were like, he's a great guy, he's amazing. And, I would tell him stories at night, and like he would be rolling on the floor. Second night, he's rolling on the floor. Third night, he's rolling on the floor. The fourth, and he goes, I thought you were making all this shit up, but my wife Googled you, and it's all true. He goes, you have to write a book about this. So I'm like, really? You think my life is crazy? Like, I didn't think my life was crazy because it was mine.
Right.
Your life happens to you, and you're like, I guess shit just happens. Like, I didn't look at it that way, right? I mean, I knew my life was a bit absurd, but I didn't think it was like, write a book. He's like, just do it. So I started writing. It was very difficult at first. My writing was terrible, and then I taught myself to write in jail. I spent about a year teaching myself how to write by reading another book I love called Bonfire of the Vanities.
I remember that book, yeah.
Classic, but one of the best authors in the world. And I used the book like a textbook. Had yellow underline. I kind of cracked Tom Wolfe's strategy for writing. And that's how I learned to write in jail. And then I wrote maybe 50 to 100 pages in jail, but I ripped them up because I didn't think they were good enough. Came out of jail. And that's when I started I took out the laptop and started writing. And, very quickly, long story short, an agent read it and he was like, holy crap, and sold it to Random House. And that was that. That's how it started.
So you actually wrote that book yourself?
I read every word of every book I write. I just wrote that book. I read every word. And I hate writing. And by the way, I know you talk about biohacking, but you also talk about success and empowerment, right? And succeed, just really, not just monetary success, but succeeding in life. And I think one of the things, if there's one piece of advice that I could give to anyone, and I think what a lot of people miss is that there's typically a specialized skill required to do what you need to do. If you want to do something and you really want something, you have the desire for it, and you want to achieve it, right? It's like people are often willing to do the hard work, but not so much the preparation. Mm-hmm. Like I did what I did. Like I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know how to write. I spent a year learning how to write. Like without that skill, I could have wanted to, tell my story, but I didn't own the skill. And I think with a lot of businesses that people go into and a lot of things they want to accomplish, they have a great idea and they would work really hard at making it work, but they didn't do there's a skill they need to do.
The process.
There's hard, and people are very good at doing the things they like doing, but so much of success is getting yourself to do the shit you don't like doing every single day, even when you don't feel like doing it most, right?
Right.
And consistently, if you can train yourself to do the stuff you don't like doing, that's what I think I'm really good at. Like I hate writing, but I spent 1 year, 17 hours a day myself writing this book. And I wrote this book. It's on how to make money in the stock market, but the right way. And it shows
it's good information actually,
it's
and it's for everybody. It's like the layman's version too for any average person who because you get screwed so often because you don't know what you don't know. But we'll get into that after.
No, the advice in there is amazing. But the point is, I was able to make it accessible and funny because the information's out there, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's boring and dry, people don't read it. So I think whatever you want to do in life, there's going to be a set of specialized skills and probably one skill that's most important of all in what you want to do. And if you want to do the hard work in that, even though it doesn't feel good while you're doing it, it opens up everything else.
Absolutely. So how do you even get yourself disciplined enough to even go through that year of the process of even learning to write, or like you said, with anything, right? Like, if someone doesn't like to do something, there's resistance. They don't want to do it. They procrastinate.
So for me, I think there's an overarching strategy with this whole thing, right? About the inner game, the mindset of success, right? Now, it has to do with your belief systems and things that happen when you're usually when you're younger, right? So for me, the linchpin moment in my life of success was at the age of 16. I had this big hit financially. I went down. Where are you from? You from the East Coast or West Coast?
Yeah, I'm from Canada.
Okay,
Yeah.
Canada. Okay, right. So there's a beach in New York called Jones Beach.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
On a hot summer sunny day, there's 1 million people on Jones Beach, and it's a very wide beach, long walk to the concession stand. I'm a 16-year-old kid. Minimum wage back then is $1.35 an hour. It's 1978, right? And I noticed everyone's bitching and moaning walking up to the concession stand. It's like 90 degrees, right? So what I'm saying, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a cooler, white styrofoam cooler. I'm going to load it up with ice cream and ices, and I'm going to get some dry ice and walk down to the beach and sell it for $1 a piece. That was my idea, right? Went down to it next morning to a distributor that sold Good Humor ice cream. I load up my cooler. The full cost of the cooler is $20, right? I go out and sell it out in 1 hour. Made $120 in an hour in 1978, right?
Wow,
it was more than my parents were making by far. Anyone, my parents, my neighbor were making, right? And what happened is that the next day I went back and made $500. In the first summer, I made $26,000. Second summer, $50,000. So I made big money. And what I realized, so what happened in this moment, I linked up in my brain that if I work my freaking ass off, I can get I wanted money. I didn't grow up wealthy. I grew up lower middle class, all right? We had everything we needed, but not what I wanted, right? And I had this burning desire for whatever reason, right? But I realized in that moment that if I work harder than everybody else and I'm willing to do what everyone else is not willing to do, I could make just like, and it became a cornerstone belief in my mind. A, that I'm the hardest worker. B, that I'll do whatever it takes. C, I'm an entrepreneur. You get it? So,
yes.
I had these beliefs that were so strong because I did this job for 5 years, right? And then I put myself through college and sold ices all through college and drove a nice car, had money in my pocket, right? So that was the start of it, okay, is these beliefs. Then let's miss the middle of my life for a second. Let's go to jail now. So I already have this rise and fall, right? But I'm still that kid that did that at 16. I never got in trouble in my life before Stratton or after Stratton. There's one thing I did. I was like, I came from the best family ever. No one ever got in trouble, right? So there was this, so I had these beliefs about money and success and hard work, right? And that if I do the right thing, I make money, right? So, or I have success, right? So now, flash forward, I'm in jail. I'm in the worst moment of my life, right? Everything is stripped away. You're with the so-called losers of society because everyone is lost at the game of life. You're locked up with no money, no power. You're just like the lowest piece of pond scum on the totem pole, right?
Right.
And I get this idea from Tommy Chong, who I love and credit for starting this whole thing of writing this book, right? And I'm trying to write, and I suck at it. I can't write. And I'm reading this Tom Wolfe book, and I'm trying to improve my thing. And I paid one kid 4 cans of tuna. I said, go through this book, and every time he compares a person to something else, like a metaphor or simile, write it down for me. So that's how granular I was getting and trying to crack Tom Wolfe's code, right?
Wow.
And there was months in the beginning, I'd say about month 3, 4, 5 of trying to write where, like, I honestly felt I just can't go on doing this. Like, it's not working. My life's a disaster. I know I'll make money again as a salesman. So I'm not going to end up poor because I know how to make money, but like just the idea of trying to be empowered while locked up, right? It was just too much. And in those moments, and the worst moments were at night, when you're alone with your thoughts, you're in your bed, right? And you're lying there, like all the mistakes you made, the people that you hurt, right? All the stuff you did wrong, it's terrible, right? And in those moments when I felt like I couldn't go on, couldn't keep writing, I closed my eyes and I'd imagine the faces of my 2 children. That was for me. That was my why. Like, why do I want to come back from failure? Why do I want to write a book? There's many ways to go out and succeed again after you get locked up for a couple of years. You can make money. But I wanted to do something, I guess that was about, like, I didn't want to hide from my mistakes. And I had this idea that I was going to, like, tell this story that I thought could be pretty amazing once I started writing it, but I just couldn't write it. So anytime I felt like I couldn't go on, I said, my children, like, just I let them down. I'd hurt them. I'd embarrass them. And I, not that they didn't love me anymore, right? I'm super close with my kids. I saw my
I
son.
was going to say.
I saw my son this morning for breakfast. He's like, we're like this. My daughter and I speak every day, so I'm very close with my
That's
children.
amazing.
Yeah,
Did they see you while you're in jail?
Yeah, they visited me in jail.
Every-
yeah.
like all-
With Tom, we had joint visits with Tommy Chong. It was hysterical. Yeah.
So you guys, like, so you never missed a beat really with the
Not
kids.
with, I mean, then
yeah.
I was very fortunate that and I moved out to California for that reason. They were in California at the time, right? So, but anyway, so that for me, like, I think that what people often miss is when you're trying to find your so-called why. It's a self-development cliche. Know your why, know your right. But the truth is, if you really know your why at the deepest level, it is freaking powerful. And here's the secret. It's not going to be about you. It's not about what you can get for yourself. It's about someone that you love unconditionally or a cause that you truly believe in. Like, you have kids, right?
Yeah, two.
Okay, so let's say there's a fire in the house here, right? And you're alone in the house. You just got to run through the flames. You're like, oh shit, that's hot. You're like, fuck, that's hot. Fuck. What if your kids were on the other side of the fire? Would you even think for a second to rescue your kids?
No.
Not even for a second.
Right.
You'd run through the fire, burn yourself, hug them so they ain't burn, and run through. And if you died to save your kids, you wouldn't think twice, right?
Right.
You love them more than yourself. It's this type of unconditional love, or even a cause you believe in. And people do awful things. Look what happened in October 7th.
Yes.
What people will do for a cause, they will do disgusting, horrible, terrible things in the name of God, or they'll do amazingly wonderful things. Mother Teresa.
Exactly.
It's always
you're
about,
right.
so it's not.
a higher purpose.
Exactly. And people miss with this is when they try to say, I want to get rich. Like, what's my why? I want a beautiful house on the hill. I want to retire young. It's not about you. This power is that's more like goal oriented as part of your vision statement, yeah. But the real power of your why is going to be much deeper and more profound than that. And once you tap into that power, you become unstoppable.
Yeah,
I believe that if you're willing to do the hard work, it can't just be so. There's always like this yin and yang. There's the inner game, which is mindset, and then there's the outer game, which is strategy. So you have to be willing to do the hard work and learn the specialized strategies to execute. So, but those two, if you reconcile those two worlds, you become unstoppable.
But like you're also, and first of all, I have so many questions for you. I'm going to be going all over the place here. But like you're considered to be like the best salesman in the world, right? Like best sales trainer in the world. What would you say to people who don't have kids or a big purpose? Like, what would be the number one sales strategy, or how to get people to be a better salesperson? Like, what would you say? What do you teach people?
Well, I wrote a book. My last book was called Way of the Wolf, right? Which was a massive bestseller.
You have 3 books now.
4.
4? You have 4?
The Wolf of Wall Street was in. It was Catching. There was a.
Oh yeah, the Catcher. Yeah.
That's
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
And Catching was the lowest performing one because it got released like the day after Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. And like there was no one was buying anything.
Oh,
you
yeah.
couldn't get any talk shows. There was no podcast back then, right?
Yeah.
So that one, it sold better later on, but like it was like a disaster.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's not your fault though. Right?
Even this book, by the got hit in the beginning because it came out like right after October 7th. So all the big,
it did?
Yeah, like so I was on Tucker, but it had to be like 60 days later because
he couldn't talk about this.
no one was talking about
exactly.
investing and every single major news. So so some of this time, but listen, you don't release a book. I don't care. It was a bestseller, but it's not why you do it. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not for money because it's so hard to write a book.
Oh, trust me, I know.
And I write them myself, and I hate writing.
How long did it take you to write this one?
More than a year.
And then, of course, it takes another year to come out and all the other stuff. Yeah.
For me, it's a grueling experience, but I do it because I think it's important. I think this book was, on some level, most important things. It answers the question: what do you do with the money that you have saved? And people just get taken advantage of by Wall Street and stupid investments and short-term trading. And this is really the truth about how you put
and also you talk about also all the fees and how do you know when your financial planner is taking advantage of you. I think these are all like so important
it's
because
like financial health, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's financial.
It
It's
is
part of the whole
financial
thing,
health.
right?
It is. And I think that now people get very overwhelmed because there's so much information. They don't know. They listen to this person. They listen to that person.
They watch Jim Cramer and get this financial.
I know, because we have to talk about that. You hate Jim Cramer.
Not as a human being.
Not as a human, but you
don't
don't like
a carnival barking ass clown because he basically is, and everyone knows it. Like anyone in finance laughs at the fucking guy. I mean, he's funny as shit, by the way. But I mean, like if that bloviating sense of humor is your cup of tea, not mine. But he's funny and he's smart. He knows his shit, Jim Cramer. Like for him, but like the advice he gives is the most toxic financial advice. Like to think that you can actually make money by trading out of this, going into this, timing the market, sell this, buy this. Oh, this is going. Who the fuck? What does he know? Human beings are the worst stock pickers ever. There's like 5 people in the world that actually can beat the S&P 500, and guess what?
What?
They're not taking your money.
Exactly.
They have hedge funds that are closed. They trade for themselves in the largest institutions.
Like Ray Dalio.
Like those people like that,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so, and, historically, he's done amazing, brilliant guy. But those are, what happens with the hedge fund and the mutual fund industry, but especially hedge funds, is that they're all like the Ray Dalios or Warren Buffett or, some, a Tepper, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable, brilliant people that can beat the market. And then you have like this 5 of those and 6,000 people that are the also-rans that bathe in the afterglow of these people. And when you look at their returns, after you subtract their fees and performance bonuses, they don't beat the index. They're underperforming the index. And the mutual fund industry is even worse. So it's so simple to build yourself a massive retirement nest egg by investing the way I explained here, which is, low-cost index fund, some money in a certain type of bond fund, some cash, and saving some for speculation. A little bit, because you want to have fun speculating, because speculating is fun. And if you don't set aside a defined amount of money, you probably will speculate with too much money. So better to say, I'm going to speculate with 5% or 10% of my capital, but the 90% is going to be in investments that I know that unless the world blows up, then who gives a fuck anyway? But as long as the world keeps trucking along, the S&P has been compounding at 10%, 10.5%, including dividends, over the last 90 years. And it's not always up. It goes down. Last year was a great year. So I look at Genius. It was up 25% last year, but that's irrelevant. It's luck. That it could have been down 25%. It doesn't matter. But on average, it always trends upward over the long term. And then you engage in what's called long-term compounding. And there's certain things you want to do. And I go through it step by step in the book. It's so simple. And you don't need Wall Street. Like Wall Street is there as like this fee machine complex to basically rob you blind. But Wall Street does create value. So you need Wall Street. Like Wall Street's necessary. But you don't have to play in their corrupt casino. You can extract all the value they create by buying into these certain types of funds that have no expenses, no fees, right? So you get all the value they create and none of the bullshit.
But if you're someone who doesn't understand any of this at all, you say basically you don't believe in even having a financial planner. A
financial planner can be good for things like tax planning.
Okay.
All right. Setting up certain type, retirement accounts, education accounts, right?
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. But as soon as they start trying to direct you into certain investments, unless they're saying to you, you should buy this S&P 500 index fund. There's some very ethical ones that will do that and guide you into the right type of investment in vehicles.
Right.
When they start going to complex annuities and all this shit, you don't need it. Historically, and this is not my information. All I did was I gathered all the information, what everyone knows to be true on Wall Street. And no one will argue that I'm right in this book.
Right.
I'm right. It's the truth. So I didn't invent these strategies. A guy named Jack Bogle is really responsible for creating the index fund. But in terms of how do you really build a portfolio? It's known. Everyone knows how to do it. But Wall Street advertises it their way into the hearts and minds of people and gets people convinced that they should be engaged in short-term trading, trying to time the market, that you can actually have a stockbroker who's going to beat the S. It's ludicrous. It doesn't work. And every academic study going back since the 1920s has proved it. So all I did was wrote it in a very funny, so the book is funny. Because I said, if I don't make the book funny, no one's going to read it. So the idea was to make it really funny and accessible, but teach you a step-by-step strategy of how you do that and secure your retirement. And trust me, if you read the book, you'll be happy. You'll be thanking me 30 years later. I'll still be alive probably because I'm aging very slowly.
Yeah, exactly. You really are. You're going to be alive to your 270.
But that's the story. But getting back to sales, I'm sorry.
No. I was going to say, you're obviously a natural. Yeah. But, I mean, even from, first of all, we'll get to the sales, actually. Well, let me just, I wanted to go back because you were talking about the movie, and, of course, I'm, obsessed with that movie. How accurate was it of your real life?
Very accurate.
It was?
Very accurate.
How much? 90%? 80%?
Well, so I was much worse than that.
You were?
Oh, yeah. With the drugs and the hookers, I'll admit it. It's not my
No, I love it. Tell me.
It's not my life today, right? But I was insane, and we were, and the thing was, the best part was the Jonah Hill character, right?
Oh my God,
his real name is Danny, and the best thing about that, I love Danny, right? And the best thing, everyone needs a Danny in their life.
Oh my gosh.
You know why you need a Danny? Because as bad as I was, I'd look at Danny and say, when I'm as bad as this fucking guy, then I know I got a problem.
Exactly.
He was that guy. He's doing more drugs. I don't got. He's got a problem, right?
Exactly.
But he's a great guy. And
Are you friends still?
Yeah, we still. I don't see him that much because we don't live in the same area. But got nothing but praises for him.
What is he doing now?
He's wealthy. I'm sure he's was a great salesman, smart guy, came from a very successful family. Our father was a famous doctor. His mother was an educator, very well-respected educator.
But they were like upper class. They
were
weren't
class.
like rich. They were
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
they're upper class.
Correct. Yeah.
And so he was able, does he have money, or just
he's money?
He
yeah,
does.
He does have money.
Like, what did he do after? What did he, I don't know
He
much
was in
about him.
medical supply business or something. I don't know exactly what he did, but he's in medical supplies, maybe some pharmacies. I don't know exactly what he did, but he made some good money. He's not poor, but he's very wealthy. He's
not just trucking along.
No, he's doing well. Yeah.
So you'd say the movie was actually, it underplayed your life?
It underplayed the insanity. Like, there were some scenes that had to be cut out because the movie would have been X-rated.
Really?
Right.
Oh my God! Like what? Tell me.
The bachelor party scene.
Okay, tell me. Don't feel like you can't say it because I'm a girl. I want to know.
No. There's some things I can't say because they're just too depraved. I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was writing the book,
okay,
right, and my editor from Random House was a female, Danielle Perez, great, very smart lady, right? And I sent her the first chapter, and it was like really, raunchy, right? And I'm like, wonder what she's gonna think, And she sends me back a note. Like back then, it was before everything was digital. I'd send her a chapter, she'd FedEx it back. It'd be like, notes, check mark. Oh my God, it's so great. You're such a bad boy. Keep going, right? I'm like, wow, okay. I'm emboldened by that, right? So next chapter I send her is like something else, crazy happened, like 4 hookers and this and that. I'm like, wonder what she's gonna think of that one, So I sent it out. She's like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" I showed it to Urban Appbound, and he was rolling on the floor. I'm like, "Fuck!" I'm like, "All right, here we go." Right. Next chapter was even worse in Switzerland. It's just pure insane, right? So I'm like, I just keep getting worse and on and on. Finally, I get to the chapter where I have my bachelor party.
Okay.
Right? And we flew 100 Strat nights, they were called them, right, out there. And
what do you call them?
Strat nights. They were called Strat nights.
Strat nights,
right?
Okay.
And equal number of hookers of all shapes and sizes, and we like the movie. It's true. We rated them like stocks. We had blue chip hookers, the best. We had Nasdaq hookers, and then we had the pink sheets with the bottom of the barrel. We took those too because we wanted to punish ourselves, right? But we did, and we flew them out. Then we hooked up with counterparts in Vegas. We another 50 to 100 hookers from Vegas, right? Anyway. The bachelor party is just spiraling out of control upstairs on there's like the 22nd floor of the Mirage, and it's like Sodom and Gomorrah on the 22nd floor of Mirage. And that was the hotel back then, right?
Back then, yeah.
And it's just absolutely raging away. There's animals, there's cocaine out on bowls, Quaaludes everywhere, everyone's high, and there's hookers, sex going on out in the open, the whole 9 yards, right? Just complete insanity. Anyway, I was downstairs with this guy named Elliot Levine, who was the CEO of Perry Ellis.
Oh,
then,
yeah,
right?
okay, yeah.
And this guy was the biggest degenerate of us. He was the guy that was the king of, brilliant. This guy was a brilliant businessman, as smart as they got during the day, and wild gambler, drugs. We were all crazy. But he was like literally, he was like, wow, he's amazing. Because, he's like the best of the bad. He was just unbelievable, right?
Wow.
So I'm with him, we're gambling, and we're all coked out of our minds and Quaalude out of our minds, like just on massive quantities, right? And he's up like 2.5 million. I'm up like $1 million for 700,000 playing blackjack, right? So we decide, let's go upstairs to the bachelor party, right? So I cash out, get my chips. He leaves his there, right? Because he wants to keep gambling. We go upstairs, right? We walk in the door, and as we got there, turn the corner to the hallway. There's like 2 police guarding the bachelor party, right? And as we walk down, they're like, "Mr. Belfort, you don't want to go in there. It's like you really." I'm like, "I have to. I have no choice. I must. It's beyond my control." And we go in there, and it hits you like the whole thing is just complete insanity. Music blasting, hookers dancing this way and that way, people just engaged in sex, and we get to the back of the room, and there's this. You see the scene in the movie, by the way, where there's a snapshot of one scene with this pink sheet hooker, and there's like a line of guys, and one guy is having sex with her, right? And we're watching this like disgustingly vile act. Anyway, long story short is something happens. I can't say it's just too disgusting, but something happens like after the guy pulls out, and you can't imagine what the woman looks like after that, and it's like this really the most disgusting vagina it's like the world's most polluted vagina basically ever to exist on planet Earth, right? It's that bad.
Wow.
Okay, right? And we're all looking at like, and you have to look because like morbid curiosity takes over. You're like, you just want to take a look. You're like, oh my fucking God. And this guy was like number 8 on the line of 20, right? Okay, can you imagine this? Right? Yeah. All right.
Oh my God.
I'm not this guy anymore. I'm like married. I'm happily married.
I'm gonna have to clip that because people are good. This is what people like to hear, though. They like the morbidity. They like this stuff.
You know,
I'm like,
what
this
can I say? You know,
it's so interesting and fascinating, and it's like people. Like that's why people like to look at like a bad accident or they don't have a life
well, this
like
was
that.
a fucking 10-year train wreck. But by the
fact that you're not dead is unbelievable.
I know, and I look pretty good considering.
That's what I'm saying. The drugs, nothing even like aged you.
It's a testament to the human liver, right? So if the liver stays I didn't drink a lot. I think that was the big thing. I didn't drink much. I had a little bit, not much. That wasn't the big thing.
It was mostly just drugs.
Drugs. Yeah.
Like you love the Quaaludes.
And cocaine, were the big ones, right? And a lot of Xanax and Klonopin and morphine because it was cool and awesome. And I just did massive quantities of drugs, right? I never met a drug I didn't like, right? And the little LSD, not much, right? But anyway, the
story, the bachelor party, yeah.
Anyway, so we were all looking, and Elliot is next to me, the most depraved of us all, and he goes and grabs a bottle of champagne, shakes it up, and then something happens, right? Something so disgustingly vile that it tore through the fabric of space-time. Like all of a sudden, everyone just stopped, like everyone just froze, and you're looking at this thing, and you're like, I can't believe it, right? And then it's like he's gargling anyway. But then, I'm like, I have to go. I can't watch this. It's just too disgusting.
What was it?
I can't say it. But it had to do with, like, a champagne bottle and drinking it, and the whole thing, vagina.
Yes, I understand. I get it.
I don't want to say it, okay, because it's just too gross, right? And he drinks and goggles, and everyone's, like, frozen in horror. Like, frozen in horror, right? And then I'm like, fuck, I got to go. And I walk out, and I leave the party, and I go downstairs, take like 4 or 5 Xanax and go to sleep because I'm just disgusted by the whole thing, right? Next morning, I wake up and I put I had like $2 million, $1.8 million, and the money I brought down, like $1.7 million, $1 million plus I won $700, put it in the safe, right? I wake up next morning, Elliot's shaking me awake, right? And he's like, we got to get out of here. This place is too depraved. I'm like, you're telling me it's too fucking... He's like, let's go. He's like, all right, let's go. He's like, we got to go. The jet's waiting. All right, we're going to go. We'll go. I go to the safe. My money's gone. He not only did he lose his 2.5, he took my 1.7. He ended up losing like $40 million gambling this guy. It was like an unbelievable insanity. So anyway, I write this.
Over the $40 million that trip?
No, he lost like that night like probably $4 million. But over the next 6 months, everything, he was like and then lost his job. And he came back too again and became rich again with Jordan jeans. Brilliant Garmento, this guy. Like one, he was brilliant, but so self-destructive, really, but unbelievably smart and talented, charismatic, right? But anyway, so this scene that starts when we fly there with all the hookers, right? And someone gets shot in the knee along the way, no big deal. New York cops are with us, protecting us. The whole thing's just like, and I write the whole thing. It's like 22 pages in excruciating detail of everything that happened, all right? Down to Elliot taking my money and then imploding, and then he drowns in my pool and I save him. It's a whole thing, right? And I send the pages to my publisher, to Diane Perez. And I'm waiting for what is she going to say about that, right? And then maybe like 4 days later, I get back FedEx and I open up and she's on the front page. I just don't think other human beings will understand. And then I go in there, I look at there's an X here and an X there and the whole thing. So in my first book, The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
There's like this part where I describe the back. In detail, I describe this whole story. We'll up the money because it's a true story.
Yeah.
It's vetted true.
And nothing's
there's 100
fabricated.
witnesses to this. No, there's 300 witnesses. No, nothing is exaggerated. 300 witnesses, right? So the whole thing, we won all this money. He took everything. But in the middle, I say, we walk to the back of the room, okay? And it says, I open the door and there's the bachelor party. And it was so depraved, I had to walk out. Like, there's the whole thing cut out of the thing. You get it? I went downstairs to, like, she's like,
wow.
And if you read it fast, you're like, oh, it was depraved. But the whole thing was described,
Wow. And it wasn't in there.
It wasn't in the book. So then when Marty did the movie, I'm like, Marty, you want me to? He goes, yeah, I want to see this pages. So you saw the pages, and I think the first version of that was they had to cut because it would have gotten NC-17.
Get
Yeah.
out.
So they said for that little still shot, that kind of said something happened with a guy screwing a book.
Right.
Right.
It was still pretty like raunchy
Yeah.
for like a movie, but
Yeah.
it was still, it could have been, that was like, it was like it's like the Smurfs compared to what really happened.
And the problem with the whole why these things happen, like these insane things, right? Is that we were like action junkies, and it's like almost like what's next? It's like you keep looking for a higher and higher cliff to dive off of and a shallower and shallower pool to land in.
Yeah.
Because what was the first thing we did that we thought was insane, we shaved someone's head for $10,000. And we're like, oh my God, it was great. But then 3 months later, head shaving is $50. Like, it doesn't have the same impact. So let's shave a girl's head this time.
Right, because you get to always up the ante, right? And it never gets to that place. But then, how did you even get Leonardo DiCaprio? Were you able to pick him?
I picked him. Yeah, I picked him in Scorsese.
How did you get that chance? Like, tell me like how it worked. What was the process?
And this is where I would say like the hard work of writing. So I spent a year teaching myself to write.
Right.
So what happened is, so what really happened is this. I came up with a style of writing where I took what was nonfiction and wrote it like fiction. And my book reads like a novel, but it's true. Okay, it's true, but it reads like a novel, which is different from almost every memoir that you would read because usually the person has a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Okay, or if they write themselves, they didn't spend the amount of time. I taught myself to write as if I was a novelist, like Tom, because Tom was a novelist.
Yeah.
He started off as nonfiction, and by the way, that's the beauty of Bonfire, is he wrote, nonfiction, but it was almost like he wrote fiction. It was fiction, Bonfire, but he wrote it like nonfiction. Like he did so much research into stuff, right? So it was so believable. I did the opposite. Using his style, I wrote what was nonfiction, and it read like fiction. So, and I spent so much time, and I think, and I did do a very good job writing that book. Everyone loves that book. And when Leo read the book, he was like, "Holy shit!"
Was it a massive seller before you got the movie deal? Before you even got the movie deal?
Yeah. No, it wasn't out before the movie.
That's what I say. I thought you got the book after
Let me explain.
So give me the chronological.
Leo read the book before it was a manuscript. It was just a manuscript. It was edited. So the editing was done.
Okay.
Right? It was the original version was 1,500 pages, and my editor and I whittled it down to like 538 or something like that, right? So a lot of stuff got cut, right?
Wow.
I overwrote the book, right? So when that was a manuscript, my producer, a woman named Alexandra Milshon, one of the sharpest ladies I know, right? Brilliant producer in Hollywood, right? She slipped that manuscript to Leo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Mark Wahlberg, right? Ultimately, and Wahlberg loved it too. He wasn't quite as big a star yet. Now he's massive, right? And he was done great too. I love Mark Wahlberg. But at the time, it came down to George Clooney was too old. He would have played the FBI agent, right? So it came down to Leo and Brad Pitt both wanted the book. There was a bidding war between the two of them. So like over a weekend, bidding went up and up and up. Each side said, whatever they pay you, we'll pay you 10% more. So the price of the sale kept going up and up. And finally, Leo calls and goes like, I have Martin Scorsese attached. He's going to direct. Marty read the book, loves it too. He'll direct. And I was like, and by the way, the truth is I always loved Leo. Like I thought Leo was the perfect person. I love Brad Pitt too, but Leo was.
No, you did it perfect.
Right? And so I sold it to Warner Brothers with Leo on behalf of Leo and Marty, right? And then a man named Terrence Winter, a brilliant screenwriter, adapted the book. We spent a lot of time together, and he took my book and put it into a format that became the movie. There's many changes after, but it was the movie, that first script. And everyone loved this first script so much. It was in 2000, and the book hadn't even come out yet. The book was slated to come out in September, and now we're like in June. And everyone loves the script. I get a call from Leo's manager, Rick Yorn, saying, dude, we're greenlighting the movie. Warner Bros. We're going to go. We're looking for soundstage. I'm like, what? Like it never happened. Like when someone options a movie, it's a very slim chance it ever gets made. It usually doesn't get made, right? It goes on forever, right? But Leo loved the role, Marty loved it. The whole thing worked out, and then the writer's strike hits, the 2007 writer's strike, and the movie, and it's not, the script is not ready. It needs, and they all of them put their pen down. Leo and Marty go off and do Shutter Island because it was ready.
Yeah.
And the window closed. And one thing about Marty, who's one of the most talented directors in the world, amazing, but he moves slowly. When he's with a picture, he's with it for years. It's very slow. So now it became the brutal wait for Marty to be ready again. And like Leo's easy because he does a movie, he's next. And so we were trying to get it done, and the stars could not get aligned, and on it goes. And then 2008, the financial crisis hits, right? And I can't sell another book because no one's buying anything. I'm completely broke again. I'm freaking out. And with my then wife, I was, my partner, I'm common law, but she's like my wife. And I'm like, I hate writing, and I hate writing so much. And like I can't even sell anything right now. I was working on another book, but no one would buy it because no one had money, right?
Right.
And she's like, what do you want to do? I said, well, maybe I should go and try to be a speaker, And I'm like, well, let's do that. And I remember this moment. I called my book agent. His name was Joel, and I said, Joel, listen, I really want to go and try to do some speaking events. He's like, oh my God, you're a great speaker. It's great. Just you got to wait till the movie gets made. Then they'll come for you. And I'm like, what did you say? He's like, you wait for the movie. I'm like, I'm not fucking wait. And I liked the guy, but I was like, that is how you go out and become successful. Wait for the movie. I could be waiting the rest of my fucking life for the movie to get made. And I slammed the phone down. I said, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do this, right? And I went out and I started with giving free speeches at colleges. My first speech was for free. Some girl, was a big fan. I want to bring you to my college. I went for free. Did a few free speeches. And when I did the first free speech, the kids went wild. And Anne was like, holy Christ. It's like something that comes naturally to me, right? They went crazy, right? And then the first person that booked me was like a $5,000 event for some entrepreneurs thing. Never even fucking paid me. And I flew to New York. They put me in a tiny little room the size of a fucking railroad car, right? I went through shit. I was just getting started, right? And then I was just talking about the inner game of success. I wasn't even teaching sales yet because, I had created so much mayhem with my last time I taught sales to people. I was like, I don't want to talk about sales anymore, right? Because I had my own negative angles about it, right? But then something happened, and I was at some event in Australia. So I already had a big following from the book around the world. So I did a tour in Australia, and I met a guy there who goes, I want to take you to England. It was only the inner game of success, no sales or business, right? Just, mindset, right? But it was really compelling. And he goes, dude, I got to bring you, people are going to love this stuff in England, right? And I went to his company. I flew me to England. I went to his company in England, and he had a phone room, like 20 people on the phone because he was doing some stuff with trading, right? And he had, they were selling trading programs, right? And I listened to his salesman. I'm like, dude, your people suck. I'm like, he goes, I know, they're the fucking worst, right? He goes, their closing rate is just like horrific. I said, if you want, I'm happy to train them for you. I'll teach them the straight line. He goes, what's that? I said, I'll show you a straight line. So he calls all his people into a room, all right? The name of the company was called Knowledge. The video is still around. Knowledge to Action, right? Now, at the time, I had my first shoulder surgery already. I already had, so I was actually I think for the second one, I was actually in a sling from having my rotator cuff repaired, right? But anyway, so he calls his people in, all right? And they have this script. The sales manager wrote this fucking script that was like a big piece of oak tag in a circle. It was the most toxic piece of shit, right? It was like the opposite of the straight line. It was the circular bullshit, right? And I took a blowtorch and lit it on fire in front of like 20 people, all right? I said, guys, this is the biggest sales manager's like you're gonna see, right? And I start teaching the straight line system, which is what I invented to teach all these. And the guy who was a seminar promoter is like, when I was done, he's like, why the fuck are you talking about the inner game of success? He goes, this is the most, I've never heard, there's nothing fresh in the world of sales. Everyone's saying the same shit again, and no one's ever said this before. This is like, I said, well, this is what I taught. He goes, dude, you're going to make $1 billion on this thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is, don't stop, fuck that, right? So I was like, really? And I was like, I don't know if I want to teach sales. He's like, buddy. And I went back 3 days, and what happened is he was closing about 20 sales a month from his room. The next month, they closed like 328 sales.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And massive fucking success. Blew up his biz, right? And what happened was I still didn't want to teach it because I was like, oh, last time I taught it, people lost money. It was terrible. I really wanted to just give value. And I didn't want to teach something I thought would hurt people because I made some huge mistakes. There's no doubt. Like now,
right.
In hindsight, I can feel great. I've redeemed my life, and and the whole thing. I've had this, but I still at the time was very new, and I felt terrible. People lost money. I wasn't happy about that, and I wanted to come back and rebuild my reputation. I said I'm never going to do anything again if people don't get if I charge $1,000, I want them to think they got 10,000 in value. That was on my mind, and I didn't want to teach things that might hurt people, right? So I wasn't. And the straight line's really freaking powerful.
What is it? What is the straight line
It's
system?
an incredibly powerful system of sales and persuasion. And I sell courses now, but like you can get enough. I give enough stuff away for free. You don't need to buy my courses. If you want to buy my courses, you can buy them, and it's very organized, but you don't have to. Like it's not how I make my money, and I love teaching it. And there's so many videos on. You can't suppress stuff it's always on YouTube if you want.
Yeah,
so
I want to go watch
people don't
it.
want to pay, will pay, and they can go buy it. It's amazing. The course.
But give me like the basics of it, of how it would work.
But what it is really is that like if you ask the average person, like a salesman that's not trained, but they might be a decent salesperson, right? Like what do you do when you sell? Like, what's actually happening? If I ask you, you're probably a very good salesperson. You're a good communicator. If I ask you, what do you do when you sell? Like, what would you say?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, what would you do? What is it? What is selling to you? What do you do?
I would.
What makes you a good salesperson?
I don't know if I am. I mean, I think
You are, but what do you do?
What would I do? I would tell you all the benefits of what it is.
Okay.
And how it would help you.
Okay.
I would be focused on you,
Right.
not about. Is that not right?
No, well, it's right, but there's a bigger answer. Like, it's not incorrect. Yeah, of course you do that. You're also very good at building rapport, right?
Yeah, very good at
Right,
that. I
right.
think
Your energy, you can match energy really well, right?
Yeah.
You come off as a figure of authority, right? So people
Yes.
will listen to you because you're an authority. All these things you do, right?
Right.
But what really happens, sales really is at the highest level, it's the transference of emotion, and the emotion you're transferring is certainty. That if I'm going to buy, like for example, if you're going to be selling me whatever it is,
Slate.
Slate,
Which is, by the way, amazing.
Slate, right? Okay, right. So it's Slate, right? So, okay, how sure are you this is amazing?
Well, I love the taste.
No,
I'm very sure.
Incredibly sure, right?
100%
Scale
sure.
1 to 10, where are you? 1 to 10.
10.
Okay, right. Where am I?
You're at 0 right now.
Really? No.
1,
No.
2, 3.
Who fucking knows?
Right.
How could you know?
I don't know.
But the moment I looked at this can, I landed at a 7.5. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, the packaging looked good. I have a trust in you. So immediately, everything I know about energy drinks, coffee, whatever, French vanilla, and immediately my brain will take all my experiences and put me somewhere. Because I'm from Earth. Whether you're selling cars, homes, slate, books, the person that you're trying to sell to, the moment they know what the product is, their brain will take everything they've ever heard, seen, experienced, their prejudices, good, bad, and land somewhere on this scale of certainty, right? But where are you? You're at 10. Why? Because you know how awesome it is. So what's your job now? If you want to get me to that level of absolute certainty, because listen, where do you want me on the scale? That I absolutely love. If I'm at a 3 or 4, am I buying this stuff?
No.
Right. If I'm at a 9 or 10, good chance.
Yes.
Right.
So what I would do is, and what I would naturally do is, because it's the truth, and that's why I can only really sell
And it
things
tastes
that I like.
great, by the way.
It tastes amazing. There's 20 grams of protein, 0 sugar. It's 110 calories. It's way better than all the other junk out
Right.
there. And if you're into health or fitness or wellness, you would rather have this
100%.
than like a bunch of junk.
Totally right. So okay, so those are all features, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then the benefits could be how it would make me feel. But the point is that if you're the salesperson, whatever you're selling,
Yeah.
the salesperson needs to enter at this level of absolute certainty,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then their job is they want to transfer that certainty to the person they're trying to sell to, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make them hopefully as or close to as certain as they are, right?
Right.
So let's say you do that.
Okay.
Right, let's say you do that, right? And when you're done giving me the features and benefits, and you do a
Oh,
great
that's
job, but I'm like, wow, this shit's really good. I'm like, wow, this stuff is really good. It's a 10, right? Question: will I buy? Will I buy?
Yeah.
The answer is not yes, and the answer is not no. The answer is maybe.
Right. I said, yeah, like I want to hear what you're going to say.
Maybe I will. Right. Why is it maybe? Because what if in the process of you making me certain, you did it in a way that maybe not trust you or not like you? What if the way you talked to me, it offended me? And so yeah, you convinced me it's great. I'm like, but I don't trust this person. Am I going to buy from you?
No.
Right. So it's not enough that they love the product. They also have to trust the salesperson or the person who's presenting them with the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say let's say you did that well, right? Would I buy now? The answer still is maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. Why? Because what if I don't trust the company that manufactures the product? There's something about this. It's an unknown company. I don't know how they are. I don't really know how if it does. And sometimes that can be very profound in certain industries. Sometimes it's less important. But the bottom line is this. It's not enough for any one of those things. What you're doing as a salesperson is you're aligning all three of those elements. You're trying to increase someone's certainty for all three of these things. They want the product, yourself, the company that stands behind the product, right? And then the goal is to get them to that 10, 10, 10 in a single moment in time. And then you ask them to purchase, right? Now, there's more to it than that because there are all these rules of persuasion, for example. So let's say you have to line those three elements up. Well, the $1 million question is how? How do you go about doing that, right? Well, there's another side to this that has to do with how you're initially perceived. And then we get back to how I invented this straight line, which was back at Stratton when I had this situation where I was closing at a very high level, and so was Danny. We were killing it, right? I invented I found a niche in the stock market, right? An untapped niche, right? And what happened was I was closing at 50%. Danny was in the 40%, right? And my 12 kids who had the average IQ of Forrest Gump on 3 hits of acid, right? Not the sharpest tools in the shed. No Ivy League diplomas. They were like basically no members of the Lucky Sperm Club.
Right.
They were 18 to 20-year-old kids that barely clawed their way out of high school. Kids that were never told by their parents they were capable of greatness. And any greatness they had in them naturally was beaten out of them since the day they were basically born, right?
Right.
So those are my people, right?
Right.
And I already taught them a system of how to close average moms and pops on penny stocks.
Right.
$500 trades. Easy to do. And my system worked. But when I found this new system, which was selling $5 to $10 stocks to the richest 1%, we didn't call people that we were all multimillionaires, we called, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to do it. Danny was able to do it. And these 12 kids a month later hadn't closed a single account. I was making millions of dollars. Danny was making millions. The kids were making zero after a month, right? So I'm like, how is this possible? We're calling the same people, using the same script, right? Same stock, same everything, same leads. I'm at 50% closing rate. Danny's is in the 40s. They're at zero, right? And for a month, I couldn't figure it out. And I was already considered to be like an amazing sales trainer at this point. But something was missing. Anyway, long story short, I stumbled on it after a month of just like banging my head against the wall, reading every book about sales. I tried everything. Nothing worked. Nothing could get these kids to close. And finally, one night, it was like this, I was giving one a marathon, like 5-hour training session at night to my 12 guys, right? And I looked at them and, guys, I don't get it. I'm doing it. Danny's doing it. I know you can do it too, right? And like, what's the problem? And they stood yelling, there's too many objections. One guy goes, there's 1,000 objections. Someone goes, yeah, there's 1,000 objections. Another guy goes, we can't even get our pitches off. They keep cutting us off. The rich people are assholes. Someone says, there's 1,000 objections. I said, great. I'll tell you what. And I had a whiteboard by me. Let's write all 1,000 objections down, right? I said, come on, let's call them out, right? And I said, it's a long story. I'm going to keep going here.
This is fascinating.
Anyway,
so, like, is it like the takeaway close you do?
No, nothing about that.
Go ahead.
Nothing about that. Nothing about that.
Okay, so what do you go
Completely
on?
different, right? So I said, guys, write them. What are they? Call them out. Someone goes, they want to call back. I said, great. What else? They want to think about it. I wrote that down. What else? They want to call their wife. What else? Great. Bad time yet. They paused. I'm like, what else? Silence. I'm like, guys, that's 4 objections. There's 996 to go. Let's fucking go, right? And on they went, on and on. They're calling out every conceivable objection they could think of. And at the end of the day, the board was filled with objections. You know how many? 14 fucking objections. Not 1,000, 14. And half of those were repeats of 2. It was like, I want to speak to my wife, my partner, my business, my lawyer. Or it's a bad time. It's Christmas time. It's back to school time. It's fucking leap year, Groundhog's Day. Bullshit. I want to speak to Santa Claus, the fucking tooth fairy, right? And in that moment, I got so pissed off, right? And I looked at them, and I'm like, you guys are unbelievable. You're whining about these 1,000 objections. There's 14, and even half of them are repeats of 2. But you know what? Even those don't matter. I'm like, don't you guys get it? And suddenly this thought pops in my head. I'm like, every sale's the same. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean every sale's the same? See by their expressions, every sale's different. People have different needs, different values, different pain points, different experiences. They say different things, right? They're like, every sale's different. Like, guys, every sale's the same. Watch. And this idea pops in my head. And I'm like, it's a straight line. And I draw a straight line across the board. For the very first time, I put a big thick X on either end. I say, this is your open, where the sale begins. This is the close. And then I start teaching this system with a straight line. And then I said that I'll leave it out. And you go and see this on videos on YouTube. It's all over YouTube, right? And then I said, now guys, when you were selling penny stocks, and it was easy, every once in a while you get an easy lay down sale, right? That doesn't happen anymore. What's happening is this, and I realized something, it hit me. They were saying they kept getting cut off. The rich people were assholes. They couldn't even get their pitches off, right? Now, guess what? I was not getting cut off. People never cut me off. I was getting the same objections they were getting, right? Mm-hmm. But I was getting them at the end after I asked for them to buy, after I asked for the order. They were getting cut off in the beginning. And I'm like, there's something like, it just hit me. It was so profound. I'm like, wait a second. I'm not having trouble getting my pitch off. People listen to me. And I'm like, and then it hit me. I said, guys, when you're speaking to smart people, when you're speaking to people, everyone's smart now. We all got smartphones, right? When you're speaking to people smart and educated, you have 4 seconds to establish 3 crucial things. And I'll tell you what they are. Number 1, you must be perceived as being sharp as a tack. Number 2, enthusiastic as hell. And number 3, most important of all, an expert in your field. You got 4 seconds to do it because people judge books by their covers. We seize people, we size them up, we make a snap judgment, and here's what happens. If you're perceived the right way, sharp, on the ball, enthusiastic, and most importantly, an expert, what do you do in the presence of an expert? You defer. You let the expert control the conversation. We've been conditioned since we're yay big. When we were kids, you're sick, where do you go? The parents take you to the doctor. The doctor dresses a certain way. Even your own parents defer to the doctor, right? When the doctor says to you, so how long has this been? You don't say, well, how long has it hurting you? You answer their questions honestly and forthrightly, right? So we have been conditioned with coaches, tutors. If as adults you need advice on taxes, you hire an accountant. You want to in trouble, you hire a lawyer, right? We seek out experts to help us solve our problems. And when we're in the presence of an expert, what do? We defer. We let them control the flow of the encounter.
Right.
But when you're in the presence of someone you believe is a novice, what do? You try to take control.
Right.
What was happening is I was a natural born closer, all right? As was Danny, right? And I taught Danny something about sales, but he took to it like a fish to water, right? So when people would hear my voice from the second I opened up my mouth, in the first few seconds, they're like, fuck, this guy's sharp. This guy's an X. I was coming off a certain way.
Yeah.
And they weren't. I was using certain, and $1 million, so how do you do that? Is it the words you say? Well, it really can't be, right? What could you say to someone in 4 seconds?
Right.
Like, I'm sure, I'm an expert, I'm an enthusiast, I'm an expert. No, so you sound like an asshole, right? So you do it through unconscious communication. Tonality, body language. There's certain tonalities you use in person, body language. And what happens is people, you fall into this, you hit this box in their mind, they're unconscious, that this is an expert. So what do? They defer to you. In that moment, when they defer, it opens up the possibility to make every sale the same. See, if you're in control of the sale, you can now run a strategy. Let's say intuitively I knew there were these 3 things. See, I knew these 3 things had to line up. I never thought about it before. I did it automatically because it was a natural born closer.
Right.
I was doing all of these things that were like perfection in sales. I outclosed anyone I ever went up against when I was very young even. Naturally, I just knew what to say. And there are other people around the world that are natural born closers, but most people aren't.
Right. So how do you teach it?
Well, what happens is, but what the straight line does is this visual, and you see it play, you're like, oh my God, and I break it down into each of its components, and I give you a step-by-step formula, and it always starts with this. You must learn how to take control of the sale, to be perceived the right way as an expert. Once you learn how to be perceived as an expert and sharp on the board, it opens up a universe because now you can actually say, all right, I'm going to do this first. You have a logical progression. And if you know what things have to line up, you can then line them up the same way. And that's what I was doing. And when I taught this, and there's much more to it. I've gone for 3 hours with this, right? I teach this around the world, like for 3 days at a time, right?
Right.
But the point is that when someone that is, and which most people, like there's a spectrum. Some people are just awful. Many people are decent. Some people are talented. They don't understand strategy, but there's a spectrum. When they learn the straight line, it's like a manna from heaven. So you could take someone that's terrible at sales and make them good. Not like me. You make them good. It's
Much
not going to
better.
hold them back, right? You take someone who's good and make them amazing. Take someone who's amazing, they'll be one of the top closers in the world. So it works for everybody in every industry, and it's easy to learn. Easy to learn. So I think what really
Did the 12 men learn? The 12 people learn that?
so they hadn't closed the sale in 30 days. That next morning we came back and they went on an account opening spree of such biblical proportions. They were all millionaires in 90 days, and Stratton became the largest firm in the country selling $5. We had 3,000 people. And that was the success of Stratton was based on the straight line. It was the straight line that fueled Stratton, not the stocks. Okay,
Right.
The problem is that the mistake I made was I didn't understand enough about creating the better companies. So like my ability to sell outfueled my ability to create the right stocks.
Right.
And that was a problem. And then of course, it doesn't help when you're doing 6 Quaaludes a day and snorting cocaine and partying 6 nights a week in the city. And it became like, what it was? It was like the most fun place. It was before people had smartphones.
Yeah,
so you can do whatever the fuck you want. Now you'd be in deep shit, right?
Of course.
But it was a different time, different social rules, and we had our own set, even within those. You see how things are now.
Yeah.
So things were different then. But even then, we had our own alternative universe inside the 4 walls of the boardroom. Like all things, people would walk in there. Whenever they walk in the boardroom, they what the fuck? It's like animals running around, not hooks, but girls in mini skirts.
It was. I can't even imagine. Okay, so by the way, we got kind of off.
I know.
Although that was very fascinating, and I actually want to know how you would sell that. I'm curious. How would you get someone to attend?
What?
If you were selling Slate or, Therasage or whatever, what would like this
So
is?
what I would do, I'll tell you, because if someone wants to watch a video
Yeah.
of me selling, there's a great video of me doing just this thing. It was in Australia, and it was selling a financial services package to some guy, right?
Okay.
A CEO, right? It was actually staged though. It was staged by a psychology company that was trying to understand the straight line and break it into psychological components.
Yeah.
Right? They spent a lot of money, paid me a lot of money to do this. This was like in 2010. And what they did is they gave me what are called critical incident scenarios, right? Uh-huh. And it's where they hand you like a dossier, right? And they say, okay, here's a fur coat company. And they give you it's like this big, all things. And these are your customers. Go prepare, and then we're going to film you. How would you sell it, right? I did it for a few things, for a coat company, automobile, and then they did this thing with this financial services package, right?
Right.
And they gave me this big dossier. It was about a milk company, dairy company, right?
Okay.
That was big in Australia, and they wanted to expand into China, and they were looking for better banking relationships and so forth, blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, you got, 15 minutes to prepare, right? And then we're going to call him, this is an actor who's a CEO, and we want you to close when the cameras, everyone, like just like this, lights, cameras, right? We want to tape it and see how you go about doing it. I'm like, all right, great. So they hand me the dossier, and I start reading through it. I'm writing some shit down. I'm looking for the whole thing to find facts about the company, right? They come in like 20 minutes later, and they're like, are you ready? I'm like, can I have more time? They're like, yeah, sure. Take as much time as you want. I said, great, thanks. I kept writing, looking at my stuff, planning it out, right? 30 minutes later, like, are you ready? I'm like, just give me a little more time. All right, no problem. 30 minutes more. Like, you ready? No, just give me 15 minutes more. Finally, after an hour and 45 minutes, right? I said, okay, I come in, right?
Yeah.
The psychologists sit down in the corners. The cameras are rolling. The guy comes in. He's the CEO, right? He's playing the role. He's a really talented actor. This guy, he was like fucking really good. He acted like the CEO and knew everything about the company. And we start getting into this, sales, right? On camera.
Yeah.
And I'm using the straight line at a very high level, right? And I'm using all the things I know how to do, and I'm moving them down the straight line, so to speak, right? And then I find it's really going well, and I ask him to buy it. He wants to think about it, and I do what's called looping, and I loop back. And I do another thing, blah blah blah. All these things that you would learn with the straight line. And I ask for the order again, and I have him, and he's close, and he's like, nah, let me just speak to my partner first, and then I do another loop again, and I pull out one of my most powerful language patterns, right? And I guide him into this perfect close. Like it's impossible for him to say no, right? And he's like, nah, I can't do it. So I'm like, all right, double secret probation. I do one more loop back again. I raise what's called his pain threshold. Another impeccable rap I give him, right? And I ask for the order again. Just believe me, you will not be sorry. Does that sound fair enough? He's like, fine, I'll do it. And he puts his head down, he starts cracking up. And the psychologists pop up, and everyone's like, what the hell just happened? I'm like, what happened? They're like, we paid him to say no. He wasn't allowed to say yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He goes, we told him you cannot say yes under any. The guy's like, you were too compelling. I couldn't say. I felt like an idiot. And he couldn't. Okay. Now, and then they go, but that's not even the craziest part. I'm like, what's the craziest part? He goes, we tested 50 other people on the same scenario. No one closed the guy. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't surprise me. He goes, no one spent more than 5 minutes looking at the material.
Wow.
I'm like, what? They're like, no one spent, they just skimmed it and the guy came in. You studied it for an hour. I'm like, of course I did. I couldn't sell this to you. If you say, you know what I would do? I'd say, give me all the fucking, and I would come up with the most perfect way. Why? Because I know I have to learn for 3 tens. I have to sell, I need 3 or 4 ways to sell you on this product. Logically and emotionally. There's certain, I want to know features. I could wing it and do a decent job because I'm good at this stuff. But to really do it, I would sit there and prepare myself for a couple of hours and write it all out. So I had it basically sort of, I wouldn't have a script for it, but I want to know, in my own mind, I know exactly where the sale was going to go before. I would take immediate control by coming on like an expert.
Because you were an expert by that point.
And also, I just my ability to use tone. But here's the thing. I can sound like an expert even if I'm a novice with something. I've trained myself, and you can. Now, I don't suggest this, but one of the biggest problems with salespeople is they feel like they're just getting started in a certain career with a certain product, and they don't feel like they have the confidence, so they don't want to sound like an expert. That you can't do that. You have to future pace. You have to act as if. So you can sound like an expert even when you're not. There's many people out there who are fucking experts, and they sound like novices. So it's not really what you are, it's what you sound like. Now, that might sound unethical.
No, it's so true.
But here's what I don't, I'm not saying you should pretend to be an expert and just do that. No. While you're closing the knowledge gap, you should be studying your ass off every day, becoming an expert. But there's no reason you can't sound like one day one. You get it? So the first day I'm selling any product, I sound like I know more about it, and I'm very good at putting words together. It's a natural talent. So some people struggle a bit. Why? Maybe they'll close a bit lower in the beginning. But anybody with practice and hard work can become an expert, and you can learn to sound on by using certain tonalities.
That's great, though. I mean, that's true. I agree with that, because if you do, the more information you have, obviously you're going to be able to be better.
How are they going to close this guy? I was able to. I was saying to this guy about his business. He didn't know. He didn't read the thing. I read the. I read every fucking statistic. I had things about like the difference in the currency rates of China to the yuan and fucking swaps. He was like, his eyes were rolling around. He didn't know what to do. And he just. I mean, it was so much that he felt like if he said no, he'd be an idiot. And that's what he said. He was like, I feel like an idiot if I said no.
And is this in the straight line?
It's on YouTube.
I'm gonna watch it now.
Jordan Belfort selling live. And at the end, you just see everyone standing. It got cut off, and they all stood up at the end. But they were like laughing, and I didn't know why they were laughing, right? Because the guy was paid. They paid him to say no.
So then you were doing this, or you're starting the whole speaking circuit before the movie was even out.
So this is the best part of all.
And you were getting better at it.
So I built this huge business.
Like how much was your fee to even go speak?
By the time before the movie came out, I was getting over $100,000.
So you were like a super successful speaker.
Yes, the same people who were promoting Tony were promoting me around the world, right? And I had this massive. So it wasn't nearly like it is today.
No,
obviously, right? But back then I was doing really, really well. So what happened was there was this 4-year gap. Okay.
The movie came out in 2013.
They bought it in 2007.
Yeah.
So when the first script was written, it ended with me going to jail.
Yeah.
That was the end of the movie. There was no sell me this pen.
Yes.
And there was no commercials with the straight line. Remember in the straight line? That didn't exist. Because I didn't teach the straight line on TV before. But what happened was when 4 years passed, Leo comes to my house now. When he came to my house the first time, I was living in a tiny little house. Okay, like a little tiny house. I had an apartment, like it was probably $2,000 a month, right? And then 4 years later, he goes, "I'm coming over. Let's celebrate." He comes over, and I'm living in a beautiful mansion in Manhattan Beach on the water, like a $15 million. He was like, "What the fuck happened to your life?"
That's hilarious.
I'm like, "Oh no, I rebuilt my business in 4 years." He's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I do these seminars. I teach." He goes, "Show me." So I put the video up of, Frank Kern, if that name rings a.
Yeah.
He was an old internet marketer back. He was very popular many years ago, right? I had his Frank Kern that I did. Everyone loved this tape. It was me on stage teaching the straight line. And I show Leo. He's like, "Oh my God. Wait till Marty sees this." He goes, "We're going to change the whole movie." He goes, it's going to be a comeback story. I can't hold. You just gave me you gave me the biggest gift. This is going to be 10 times better movie now because it's going to be like up. And then Marty saw this and was like, he became obsessed. I sent Marty 50 videos on the straight line. There was a 4-hour cut of the movie before the final cut that was shown to some people privately that had like 10 times as much. Marty loved the sales stuff because it said so much about what really
100%.
happened, right? It had to cut it because it was just too long. But what happened was it created those scenes where I come back with where I'm giving seminars.
I love that part.
Which is funny, right?
Yeah.
And I get arrested, right? And that was fictionalized. Like I wasn't teaching the straight line then, but they loved it so much they put it in there. My new life in the old, and then they end the movie where I go to jail and ends up with me selling this pen, which is this iconic scene at the end. So I rewrote my own life story while it was being made into a movie. I changed my own ending through hard work, perseverance, and some luck too, but mostly hard work and perseverance. You know what I'm saying?
That is so amazing. So when did they actually start filming?
2012.
Oh, and they turned it around that fast?
Very fast.
So then how much did you sell the script for?
Complex. So I sold it. I sold it originally for an option. So I got back a total in the beginning. Before it was bought, I got about $700,000 for just an option money.
Just option. Okay.
And then when the script was bought, about $1.1 million more.
And then did you get any back end of the movie?
No.
Are you serious?
No, but there's something. I'm in litigation. I can't talk about it right now. But there's some things happening right now.
Because that's like, I'm sure no one thought probably how like that movie is like literally one of the most popular movies of all time.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's funny.
And girls and boys.
I'll tell you the interesting thing, which is really what it's been so amazing for me in terms of my business, because when the movie came out, it was 2013, right? Kids are in high school. And I have fans of all ages, up to like your mother would love the movie. I mean,
that's the thing. Women love it, men love it, kids love it. My sister was telling me her little,
kids,
nephew.
It's insane. I know, right? So, but like, here's the interesting thing, though. So, in 2010, as a kid, let's say he's 16 years old, right? He's in high school, and he's probably a junior or something, right? Or maybe he's a freshman or a sophomore. All right, he watched the movie, he loves it. He sees it 3 times. He sees it 5 more times in college.
Yeah.
He gets out, he goes into the workplace, he sees it 10 more times. He strikes it rich as a businessman. What does he do? He hires me to come speak and consult at his company. So all these kids that will watch them when they were nice, they're all hiring me now.
I was going to what I was thinking?
They age up, and I to teach them the straight line, and I teach this very ethical version that really empowers people, makes sure they sell ethically. So I teach this ethical version, and my business gets bigger every year because kids are aging up.
No, I swear, I was just thinking, I want my son Dylan, who's 11, to take a picture with you because he doesn't know you now.
Right.
But in a year, he's going to watch your movie for probably, in a couple of years, maybe now.
I got to tell you, you have no idea. So sometimes I'm shocked. I used to live in the Strand. I live in Miami now, but I used to live in the Strand in Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
And one July 4th, I'm with my then wife, and we're playing backgammon. Our house is we're on the Strand, so people are walking by, and we're playing backgammon, and we're just maybe 5 feet off the Strand in our little just on chairs, and I excuse me, and I look, and it's a kid like this big. He's 7 years old. He goes, "Are you the Wolf of Wall Street?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm your biggest fan." I'm like, "Where's your mother?"
That's hilarious.
My wife said, "You're?" He's like, "Yeah, I read the book." I'm like, "Yeah, and movie too." I'm like, "What the fuck?"
See, would you get recognized all the time?
Everywhere. Yeah, he should. I can't but TSA. It's funny, right? I can't go to if I go to an airport. I can't TSA every customs.
Do people go crazy for you?
Yeah, people are the people could not be nicer, and I've never refused a picture with one person that's ever asked me.
Do people freak out because
so people are like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I have to be somewhere."
That's 100% right.
Last night I went out with a friend of mine to a club here in it was a floor or something. And I don't go to clubs, but he enjoys. We went there late, right? And there's one girl. She's like, "Oh my god, oh my!" I'm like, "Well, I'm here. I have to be somewhere. I'm here.
You have to be somewhere."
Why are you? What are you doing here? Oh my god, I was just talking about.
I would think even more than a celebrity because it's they saw that your life
real,
story.
exactly.
It's and your story, they saw your life story, and it was so compelling, and it's just. I think that's why I was so how I am so excited. But But then okay. So then like a movie gets made. So then you said that you can't talk about all of it, but you sell it. You make $1 million
No, I
from
can talk about that, but like I ended up having to sue them because the people that made the movie.
I was going to say the Malaysian people,
That's-
the Goldman Sachs guys
Exactly.
were the financiers.
Right. That's why for the last 4 years I've been in litigation with them to get some rights back, but we're going to settle. So
Okay, but that's the part that I needed to ask you about. So basically, who found them as the financiers for the movie? So to tell them who they are, the guy they're in the news
Jolo,
right now. Jolo.
This guy Reza Aziz, right?
There's a major Netflix movie on them right now.
Yes, it's called Man on the Run, right?
Yeah, Man on the Run.
$1 Billion Whale was them too, right? So
Yeah.
it was the Prime Minister of Malaysia's stepson.
Right.
He was the founder of Red Granite, right? And they came in with gang money, and it was everyone. They were telling everyone it was oil. It was like Saudi oil money, and right? So no one knew, right? And at the time, I didn't know. No one really knew,
Right.
And so I met with them. I met with the CEO. I met with the production people.
You did, or did Marty do it?
No, we did. No, we did. I did. Leo did. We had a big lunch, right?
So you were involved with
Yeah.
the production of the movie?
No, this was just to buy the movie.
No, that's what I mean. But you were involved, like after you sold it to Warner Brothers as an option and all the other stuff.
It just sat there for like
Right, forever.
When I had this meeting with the Malaysians, right?
Right. But wait, hold on. Let's go back a second. So then you sold the option, then you get the $1 million once the movie's now greenlit being made.
That's from the Malaysians.
Okay. Go ahead. I thought what would happen is Warner Brothers then gave you some money and then they would take care of it.
The option expired. I got the movie back.
Oh my God.
So I got twice. They paid me option money twice, but they never exercised the option. I got the property back. Then Leo and his manager found these Malaysians, and at the time, no one knew they were crooks.
No.
Right? They were just super rich, and then they spent money. I'd never seen people spend money. So I thought they were, at the time, I was like, this is just like the old scam of raising money and spending it. Like, it happens with venture capital. Like, you raise $1 billion, spend it, because they were spending money like crazy. But you didn't know it was stolen money. You thought it was just they were milking the Arabs.
It was insane.
Right.
And they had so much money.
Right, yeah. So I sold them the script thinking it was legit. Everyone thought they were legit.
Yeah, everyone did.
And then right around the time the movie came out, rumblings started happening, right? And like the money may have been diverted from at first I was like, whatever. It was upsetting, but and over time it built and built. Eventually, they had to pay $60 million, right? They disappeared. One of them got indicted. The CEO of Red Granite got indicted in Malaysia. Jolo went on the run. Whole thing, right?
Did he get a facelift to change his face?
That's what I heard. He got a chance. You could be Jolo, by the way.
Yeah, I could be,
could
but I'm not that I know.
No, maybe you're Jolo.
Yeah.
You're not Jolo, are you?
We caught you. Yeah, no.
Right. So anyway, I think he's in China, but that's the word. But
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was the rights. The rights got sort of frozen, and that's what it was. We should have made a TV series and done all the stuff, and that's why I got into litigation with them to try to get the rights back.
Oh.
And so I don't want to talk about any more about that because it's still ongoing. But so yeah, and those guys are I think one guy, the CEO of Red Granite, is like, I think he didn't go to jail, but like whatever, he paid some money and that's that, right? And then, but his father, the Prime Minister, is still in jail. He got sentenced to 12 years. I think yesterday they reduced it to 6. He's getting out soon, in a year. Jolo, never found. He's still got away with the money in China somewhere.
Wow. That is so crazy. Then who distributed the movie, though? Wasn't it?
Domestically, it was Paramount, and then different companies all over the world.
I can't even believe that. So that is, okay, so then... Okay, so I know you're going to wrap it, you said, right? Okay, I'm not allowed to talk to you. That's what she said.
No, just... I don't care. Just cancel the meeting.
Okay.
Tell my podcast ran over.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Apologize. See if she can make it a little bit later.
Is that fine? Okay, so...
I'll do it. What time is it right now?
It's 4:50.
Great. Yeah. You got to make it like 5:15, okay? Sure. And I'll just do it in the car, the call. All right?
Okay.
So I'm having too much fun.
I can talk to you. I have like so many questions to ask you. I feel like I'm just beginning. Okay, so then by the way, do you still talk to Leo or do you still talk to...
I do. I speak to Leo, yeah.
And like...
He's amazing. He's the best.
I mean, you picked the best. I mean, he crushed that movie.
He's the best.
That movie is just like...
He should have gotten the Academy Award.
I cannot believe he did not get that. I mean...
He got it the next year for the Red, and he goes, I had to freeze to death in fucking Canada to get an Academy Award. I should have got it for The Wolf of Wall Street.
100%. Like, so how did it, so when that movie came out, how did it really change your life, though, in a real way?
Well, in stages. So what happened was, here's the interesting thing. So the movie comes out.
Yeah.
It's a huge hit.
Right off the bat.
Right. It's a huge hit, right?
Did anyone expect it to be even close to that?
They did. People who saw it, we knew it. When I saw the movie for the first time, I was like, I mean, everyone that saw it was like, what the fuck?
No, it was, Margot Robbie. Who picked her?
Marty.
Wow.
Marty. I only picked Leo, and I picked Leo and Marty, and then everything else was Marty after that.
So who was it between? Was it anyone between her
Margot, it was a few other actresses up for the role back then, but she was just head and shoulders the best.
beyond?
She's so talented.
And she's the most beautiful human being in the world.
She's the nicest person
Everyone says that.
you'll ever fucking meet.
Like,
seriously.
Like, can you believe that you had like
I know.
like the biggest of the biggest
I
in
know.
like you had Martin Scorsese do your
I
movie,
know.
Leo DiCaprio. Like you didn't have like B-listers on this thing. Like
But I go back to one thing about that. So yeah, I mean, of course it's lucky and some of it, but it goes
You
back
make
to
your
it
own
was the
luck.
hard work
Yeah.
of the writing. It was writing. It was the skill, the time I put in to learn how to write, which allowed me to tell a story in a very compelling way that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. No matter how good the story was, if I didn't know how to tell it the right way, structure it, and put together the words in a way that people would laugh and turn the page, it didn't matter how great the story. So I served up to Leo on a silver platter.
Totally.
And then he saw it, and then and it was Leo's, and Leo was the one that drove it forward. It was Leo.
well, because he's such a
It was his passion project, and he knew, and it was Leo believed in this so much, So he really gets the credit for what. Scorsese came in he was there in the beginning, and then was like, he was less,
Involved or interested.
He just didn't. He always liked it, but it was like he had his passion project, which was I think. What was that movie he made without the priests going in, whatever it was, Silence. He was desperate to make this movie Silence. That was his passion project, right? So he didn't like it. It just wasn't his passion. But then once he started, here's what Leo said. It was like maybe 6 months ago, Leo and I were in Cannes Film Festival, right? And we were on a boat together, and we're having dinner. Like when he's sitting next to me at dinner, right? And he goes, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. He goes, I have never seen Marty Scorsese as happy and carefree as when he was making The Wolf of Wall Street.
Really?
He was smiling every single day, like he never. And that made me happy to hear that. And I think also it reflects in the movie, like how happy he was, and he was like this light. He just had this tone to it. It was light and
it was fun. Like so many of his movies, I know he's phenomenal and a great
They were
actor.
darker, right?
Yeah, not even that. Like they drag a little bit. Like this one, like it hooks you the second it starts, and it doesn't. You don't let go until the end. Like it is such a good movie.
It is.
In terms of like from the beginning to the end. Like
I know.
the whole thing.
Listen. The script was amazing. But a lot can go wrong.
A lot can go wrong.
And he just took that script and we polished it. I mean, I polished every word in that. Terry wrote an amazing script, but I worked myself at least 50 hours on that script also after Terry wrote it. I wrote the book, and I didn't write this. He wrote the script. He gets credit, but I made sure every word was authentic, and Leo did too. Like Leo painstakingly over every fucking word. So
really,
it was, oh my God. So Leo, I spent a year with him. Like he was so intense in getting this right. So as he's talented, of course.
Yeah.
But he works his ass off.
That's what I was gonna say. It sounds like
No,
it.
he's preparing for this thing. It was unbelievable.
How come they always work together? Those two. I feel like they're like a pair.
Well,
They have
for
Rick
example,
Yard.
I think there's others pairs, but they're one of the top. De Niro and Scorsese as well. But what it is for an actor like Leo is a bad director could fuck up a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could be the greatest actor in the world, if it's a bad director. So for Leo, it's almost an insurance policy.
To have
so
someone like
Leo
him.
will only work with really like Tarantino. He's very careful, Leo, with who he works with, right? Because he is as talented as he is. The wrong director could fuck up the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes for a director. Is they're great, but if the actors can't bring it to the table, so
you're screwed.
It's a comfort. So I think that's why.
Has any of this, it's funny. I feel like what happened with jail and everything else, it doesn't seem like it affected you as it would most of other. It didn't. You bounced back, I think, incredibly well and fast beyond anybody else. Why? How did that happen?
It affected me, but in a positive way. So I think what happens. It was so important for me to go to jail. It was so important because, here's people say, how did you turn your life around.
Yeah, and also nobody even. I feel like not that we forget, but it doesn't affect your reputation. Like people don't. That's not the first thing that I think of.
Right.
You know.
Well, listen. There's always some people who want to be assholes, and let them have their good for them.
Whatever,
They're
yeah.
entitled to feel what they want to feel. But 95% of the world feels the opposite, and that's fine with me, right?
Exactly.
But here's the truth. So like, I didn't like have to change into becoming a good person from becoming a bad person. If you believe in good and bad people,
Yeah.
or bad people doing good things, but I didn't have to. What happened was, I had to change back into the person I was originally. I was originally a really good kid. I never got in trouble. It wasn't like that wasn't my life. So my parents never. I was raised by the most legitimate family. Everyone went to college. My brother's a top lawyer. My two first cousins are doctors from Harvard. Famous surgeons. Like everyone, no one got in trouble in my family.
Also, you were just ambitious. Like I feel like you didn't.
It was
want to
ambition that went off the walls, right?
Right, but that can happen.
Ambition turned into greed, okay, and with massive drug abuse attached to it, right? But I don't blame the drugs. All the drugs did was help me quiet the critics. So like after I was doing shit that I shouldn't have been doing, the drugs make you feel better about it, right? But it wasn't the drugs. It was really greed. And also, I have this thing, I want to be the best at anything. So if I'm doing something bad, I got to be the best at doing something terrible, right? But what jail did is it was a reset. Like I needed to become what happened to me. What did I do? What were my values that like, so example, if you would have asked me at the age of 26, what's the purpose of a business? I'd say the purpose of a business is to make money as much as you can. But in reality, that's not the purpose or the function of a business. The function of a business is to monetize value. So you have something of value and you build a business that allows you to deliver that value to a lot of people in a cost-effective way so you make a profit. The more people you help, the more money you make. But it's not like you don't go into business, I'm going to make money. It's to monetize something of value, right? So today, like when I go out, from the moment I left jail, I've been engaged in one transaction, done one deal, or brought something to the market that I didn't think I was giving a lot more value than what I was charging for it.
Wait, are you allowed to do any financial stuff?
Of course I do, yeah.
You weren't banned from
I wasn't banned from trading or anything like that.
You weren't?
No.
So you can still do any of that stuff?
I do it. I trade all the time. I don't trade. I invest. I don't believe in short-term trading, but I invest in the stock market. I have some Bitcoin. I do a lot of venture capital.
Are you allowed to have like your own private equity firm if you wanted to?
I wouldn't want to.
No, but are you allowed?
Up to a certain amount of investors.
Oh,
I could,
okay.
but I could not have anything that was regulated. But what I can't do is own a brokerage firm.
You cannot.
I cannot own a brokerage.
But you
nor would I want to.
Nor would you want to. But you didn't even go to jail for anything that actually people are not doing right now.
Which is crazy.
Which is the irony.
I think what happened is like I think people's view of me changed after 2008 when they're like, wait a second. Like what they did on Wall Street was so much worse than what I mean, listen, what I did was wrong. I never want to minimize that.
Yeah,
right?
no, I understand.
But I didn't bankrupt fucking Iceland.
No.
Or Greece. Wall Street, wow. Like when that came out, like
I remember.
They almost blew up the world economy through complete fraud and greed and insane selling shit products to institutions and pension funds and everyone's 401, right? It almost destroyed the world.
Hold on, do you know who Michael Milken is?
Yeah, he's great. He's amazing.
Okay, right. And he went to jail for junk bonds.
Bullshit. He did nothing, this guy.
Well, I was gonna say, but I'm saying it was like something so minimal and nominal in the grand scope of what happened.
He's
look at him now. I mean, he's like a legend, right?
He's
but
amazing.
Isn't what you did though? It was pretty nominal compared in the grand.
It's nominal
scheme.
in the grand scheme, but still, I never want to say that what I did wasn't wrong because it was wrong.
It was not
but yes,
wrong,
the amount. Listen. I wish no one would have ever lost money from actions I took. But when you compare it to what happens, it's nominal. So the amounts are tiny compared to what happens every day. It's insane, and that's kind of what the book. I wrote this book about. You have to avoid.
Right. I wanted to ask you a couple questions.
Well, you have to avoid that whole. This book shows you what to do to avoid all that shit.
I was going to ask you a question though. That hold on a second. That's okay because I know I'm scared to we only have 2 minutes. So crypto. I want to ask you about crypto and all that. What do you think of crypto, Bitcoin, all of those?
I love Bitcoin.
But isn't that considered to be we don't know what's going to happen? Well, tell me your opinion first, and then I'll.
So I love Bitcoin, right? As a very long-term investment, not to try to trade Bitcoin to make money, all right? Bitcoin is 100% legitimate right now. It's all the biggest institutions own it. You have big ETFs, okay?
Yeah.
So it's legitimate now. It's decentralized, okay? Maybe it's still manipulated a little bit here, but not in an organized way. It's legit. I didn't think that many. I was a very, very bearish on Bitcoin for many. I thought it was the biggest scam ever.
Yeah, that's
okay. I thought so, right? But I just, it was my gut reaction. It was back then. It was being manipulated. In the beginning, it was. But
Yeah.
the idea, the coding was so brilliant that some people who were more insightful and sort than me, obviously, that got involved, and ultimately it was like the lie became the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. So now there's enough large players, and I believe it's totally legitimate. I own a lot of it, and I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to go much, much higher. Now, I don't think and I feel very differently about crypto. The rest of crypto.
Okay, I was going to say, so that part you're okay with.
But the rest of it, I really, I'm not saying they're all bad, but most of those coins or tokens, they have no function other than speculation. So if you want to speculate, that's fine, and have fun and buy Dogecoin if you want to do so. But just know you're probably going to lose all your money, but that's okay. If you have fun, maybe you'll make money, but you're probably going to lose a lot of money, right?
Right.
So, but I think people should speculate because it's fun to speculate, but 95% of your capital should be in the type of investments I talk about in the book, which are these sort of these index funds, which are the safest and the most, they outperform everything else, okay? And there's a lot, and there's reasons why. And it also, you don't need a lot to start. You can start, even if you're not rich, you can become rich over many years if you're smart and you just stay the course and not listen to the Jim Cramers of the world and all these people who convince you to buy this, sell this shit, you know?
Because you're never going to go on CNBC or wherever
They did not invite me on CNBC. I knew, they used to invite me. I knew with this book my time on CNBC, but I've been on other stage. I'm going on Fox a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I'll be on Gutfeld soon next week, 2 weeks from now. He's great, you know. So I go on. I love going on TV. I love doing podcasts.
But people, because you're such a great entertainer, like when you speak, you're so enthusiastic. It's like a pleasure talking to you.
I love making people laugh because I think it's great, and I love educating people. But I think people learn more when they're laughing and they're engaged.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing my events or whatever, I try to mix, humor and stories with actual learnings. And at the end of the day, that's been a very profitable formula for me, and incredibly even more valuable for people who learn these things.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many people walk up to me like, you changed my life, you changed my life, you changed everywhere I go, you changed. No one ever says, you fucked me. Everyone's like, you changed my life. So it's like, and they go through life like that. What a great way to go through the rest of my life.
Well, because you're actually giving people like actionable things that they can do. It's not just you yammering on and on, but there's like things that they're like, it's compelling,
it's very
and it's
actionable.
things that people can take away.
Exactly.
So then, is that how you spend how do you spend your time? You're doing mostly speaking
Mostly
gigs?
Consulting for companies.
Oh, you do that still?
And some companies I own myself.
What do you own? Tell me what you own.
Different companies in the different spaces. I don't want to get into particulars, right? Because a lot of stuff I do is behind the scenes. Because when you're a celebrity, it almost takes away from stuff. I don't want to, some stuff is good, but other stuff is like, it's about the product, not about me. You know what I'm saying? But I do consulting for all different types of company. You name it, I've consulted in the industry. That's probably 60 to 70% of my business. Touring is probably 20%, and products are maybe 10%, like the online products and stuff.
I would imagine that you would be called from every major Fortune 100, 200 companies to go in and just train their sales teams.
So that's interesting. So I've gotten about, I would say 30% of them, but the 70%, they're like, use the word fuck too much,
Really? Even though you'd be effective for them?
Yeah,
they
use the word
care?
fuck too much. So what they do is they buy my courses, I'm sure all the salespeople do.
Yeah.
Like, for example, where was I did an event in New York, and I would say every major salesman everywhere, not all of them have hired me, but the salesmen, they say, yeah, go use the stuff.
Yeah.
But I admit that, I am not for everyone. I think there's a lot of companies whose values, I'm much more out there with the cursing and the...
Yeah, but it's entertaining.
I know. So the people love it, but sometimes it doesn't get by a lot of times, I get hired and the HR kills it. Happens sometimes. And I get that, and that's fine.
Well, you know what it is? We're living in a very woke, liberal world, right? Which is not my cup of tea.
Don't even get me fucking
Don't even get me. I could talk about.
No,
we could do a whole podcast about this.
Get me fucking started. Okay?
Believe me,
because I'm like the anti-woke police. I fucking hate it.
You and I both. Okay, and so I think because of that, companies have to shy away from anything
Yeah.
that would be controversial or non-PC, which is a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not a fan of what's going on in the world right now
Me
at all.
neither.
Yeah, it's like a whole.
It's the opposite of empowered thinking and living.
Oh,
it's the opposite.
it's the
Ultimate
antidote of
ultimate
that.
victim
mentality. I know,
woe
like
is me.
exactly, like why this is not happening. I am enough culture. Like God forbid that you like. I know we're gonna wrap it up. Can we do this? I know he has to go. Will you come back on this podcast?
Anytime you want.
No, I'm serious. We could do like
course.
another one, like
Yeah.
double. Like we can do like part 2 and part 10.
I'm coming back here in March.
You are?
100% for sure. For over a week.
Is it just because you're doing so
No,
much
I'm
of
getting
this?
surgery on my shoulder.
Oh, that's when
so
you're
we'll do
doing
it before
it.
my surgery. Yeah.
Okay, so because I don't want to be.
No, I'll be up for.
she's
We gotta do it
freaking
before
out
my.
from-
We'll do it before my surgery.
I know, but I'm saying I'm going to hold you to that.
Promise you.
Because this is like I'm like just love. This is like my you're my cup of tea. Like everything about you and that sales piece. I think I'm gonna have to like clip that in some way because I think a lot of people will find that so.
It's great.
This is actionable stuff that people can act really. If you're an entrepreneur, I'm like talking to people. If you're an entrepreneur, someone who's like starting a business, like this is 101 what you need to do because if you're not a good salesperson, good luck.
It makes it really hard to do anything else.
That's like the foundation of
It's a linchpin skill
of starting businesses, and that's the person at a company that is the most valuable. If you don't know how to sell, you're fucked. Period.
100%.
Right? So. Okay, so Jordan, where do people find you? The new book is called The Wolf of Investing.
Right.
I highly recommend it. It's like all his other books, so easy to digest, understand.
This information is really important too. So you can go to
Very.
jordanbelfort.com, Wolf of Wall Street on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, and you'll find me. You'll find me. I'm everywhere.
He's everywhere. And if you don't know who this guy is, you're living under a rock.
You don't watch. You don't go out.
Yeah, you don't go out. And go watch the movie if you haven't, please. I mean, you never know. People could be very young watching. So anyway, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's awesome.
Okay, bye.